Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I did like this part. Like, this is the moment that Luke and Rey should have had in the last movie.
Yeah, that'd be cool. If
That
you
would have
got
been
her,
such a great
flipped it.
throwback. Yeah, but
But at the same time, I like that Luke does it because it's almost like the fulfillment
too.
of him, right? Because he
Yeah,
wasn't
that's
able
right,
to
yeah.
do it last time.
no, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why it's so cool. Like, the student is the master now, basically, right? Like,
Exactly.
the classic music too.
Mm-hmm.
It just sucks that that's all we get. Like, you don't
Yeah.
see him after this. You
Yeah.
don't hear him.
It'd be cool if Luke went with her and Force Ghost
Yeah.
tampered with Sidious or something.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Summon lightning on his ass.
I mean, that's the one thing about the Force Ghost, though. I think they have some rules in place.
Yeah, there has to be something.
Because they can't. I think it's a rule that they're not allowed to like tamper with the events of time because they actually exist outside of time. And that's also why Ben says to Luke that he cannot interfere with the when Luke goes to fight Vader.
Right.
Like,
No,
I
he does
cannot
say that.
interfere. Yeah, so it's something that they can't actually like do.
I wonder if George wrote this back in the day, or if it's something they came up with later.
I think it's just, well, I wouldn't be surprised if George actually came up with that stuff because it gives a really solid reason as to like why they can act as like a guide, but not
They can't
as
influence
just
anything directly.
Exactly, yeah.
Finally wearing that helmet.
Yeah. Red 5 reporting in.
This is Gold Leader.
Yep. It's like a dog.
Yeah.
Come on, buddy.
Totally.
We need
Come on, buddy.
you.
Good boy.
Oh, look, Rose is in this movie.
She does exist. Cool. Good old Ian. Yeah. Love that guy.
You look like a short stack of pancakes.
I always think of that robot chicken line too.
So good, man. So good.
And I like that they kind of shut down the holdo thing in this conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Let's just jump a couple ships at him.
Yeah. I like how they at least acknowledge that.
Yeah. Well, I had to do something, or else it just becomes the easiest tactic ever.
Yeah.
And it breaks that movie even more.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Dude almost fell and just saves it.
Instead of a bag, they should have used one of those
Ice cream mixers.
Yeah.
That would awesome.
Kamata or whatever it's called.
Yeah, the safes.
We'd have a new runner to dress up as. There's a whole crew that goes to Celebration every year. Dresses up as like they run like a marathon. Like they dress up in the orange jumpsuits and they just do laps around the main auditorium.
That's hilarious.
And they all they're all cosplaying as that guy.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we saw them when we were there. Yeah.
Wow. I love those helmets, man. They get better.
Man.
Better and better. Aren't they all red or whatever right now? Like,
you'd think
so
Palpatine would have like learned his lesson with like a center control ship that controls everything, like from like the battle droids on Naboo.
oh yeah, like Phantom Menace. Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't learn from their mistake.
Just never.
Yeah. See, I think it would have been cool if like the First Order had to come here and take over all of these ships or whatever that Palpatine had built. I thought it was kind of weird that there's just like every ship is just fully crewed.
So in the resource visual dictionary or whatever, they confirmed that all the people that are on these ships, like all the people on the Star Destroyer ships or whatever, are the children of all the like the Force, like the dark worshiper people in the big huge like
in Hexagon
arena thing. Yeah.
So the rest of this planet actually has like a tangible population, just not just like.
Oh yeah, there's Sith worshippers or whatever, Sith acolytes, I think.
So that was a storyline that was also kind of abandoned by this movie. They didn't really acknowledge the fact that they could have used the fact that there was this thing in the Aftermath trilogy and the all that stuff that set up the acolytes of the Beyond, but instead they decided to call this group I forget what it was.
The fanboys.
All the fanboys. There was a name for them, but I don't know. It would have been a really nice like inlet if they actually took advantage of the whole acolytes of the Beyond thing and just kind of made it the same thing, but apparently it's something different.
You're saying that all those Star Destroyers are manned by Sith acolytes? Because I thought they were all remote controlled, same as like the old like Thrawn trilogy.
No. So they're all manned by the children of like those acolyte people.
Huh. Shut up, Snap.
The one ship that's completely different from all the others.
Yeah, what's the New Order ship? It's like stands out. See, there's a purpose.
It's so stupid though. Oh my gosh.
I don't mind it.
It's so like I don't know. It just looks so ridiculous. Like
it's like to have an old Western cowboy moment on top of a Star Destroyer. If you think about it like that, it's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, like I would have been like, I think just that the amounts look so ridiculous. If they had done like tauntauns or something, that would have been friggin' awesome. But instead they got hairy boar horses. Like I don't understand. It's just like it's like we're watching a bunch of like shaggy dogs like run around. Like I don't get it.
Yeah, it is what it is. I like the basic premise. I think is cool.
No, yeah, I mean, like I'm just nitpicking. Like,
It's the Iron Throne.
Do it. Take the throne. Do it. Ugh.
Yeah, all these people.
Yeah.
So all those people, their children or whatever, are the staff members on the Star Destroyers.
They just spent their entire lives just trying to make babies.
Yeah.
Just like,
Well, don't we all?
what shall I do, my master? Make me babies. Do it.
Breed.
Breed for me.
I love that he's on this like machine. He can't move around by himself though.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, that's pretty
It's so
cool.
like
Yeah.
evil.
Yeah, it is.
And the machine itself is cool because it's very anime. It's like this just giant like arm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Like, look at that thing. It looks like it's out of an anime movie.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
I love it.
For like 3 trilogies, that's all he wants.
Kill me. Strike me down.
No, you want to do it.
So is his thoughts like if she strikes him down, he'll like possess her?
Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah,
It's kind of weird because that's not what happens at all, like in the previous films.
Well, if you think about it as a rule of two, it kind of makes sense. You strike down your master, you gain their power.
I mean, the whole reason why that makes sense, though, at least to me, was that the reason why the rule of two works is because as soon as the apprentice is able to best the master in any way at all, it means that apprentice knows more than the master does about even the simplistic things, right? Even if it is killing somebody in their sleep, it's like, well,
Yeah.
that's something the master didn't think of, right? So it's like the way I see it is like whether it be lightsaber combat, better use of the force, whatever. As soon as the apprentice supersedes the master, all of a sudden you have a better master than before. Not necessarily to the point where they possess you or whatever, right? Like I think to me it was all about skill, which is what made Palpatine such a formidable villain. Was because he was the essentially the master of like the previous like 1,000 years worth of Sith master apprentice duos, and he constructed this gigantic and orchestrated this massive plot to take over the galaxy. Like, to me it was kind of, I was able to buy it, but the whole like force, like, I don't know, the whole like possession thing is kind of, it's kind of meh, because it kind of,
well, that's why I kind of wonder if his plan was to, through some sort of Sith magic, he would possess her and take over her body.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, that's what I would wonder too.
Because I couldn't see Palpatine wanting to sacrifice himself. Obviously, he's got to have some sort of plan where he's going to be in control. It's Palpatine.
Yeah. They just never clarified that that's what it was.
Or else why wouldn't he have just tried to like suck her life force to begin with, right? There's got to be some other motive that gives him power.
Well, I think it's kind of strange that he sends Ben Solo to go and kill her, and he ends up not being able to do that. But it's like Palpatine's entire plan would have fallen apart if she just died. Right? Like,
yeah, good point.
Okay, look at this stupid shot right here of the TIE fighter that we never should have had.
It makes it very confusing. But
yeah. Oh, it's gonna show up in a second.
They cut it out because it's too confusing.
Did they actually? No. Oh,
No, I'm sure it's there.
There it is. There it is.
There it
is.
Perfectly fine. Look at that. It's like mint. It's like, how did he find
What's funny is then Mandalorian canonized that the wings fold.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's a specific model actually, because I did some more digging on that, and apparently it's called a TIE Outlander, which
That just makes it even more confusing.
or sorry, an Outland TIE. Yeah.
It's weird they have all these ties that look the same for the most part. Like they don't have any niche.
Yeah. Right. Oh, you know what's kind of cool though? Speaking of ties, in Star Wars Squadrons, when you're inside the TIE bombers, behind you in like the pilot section of the TIE bomber, there's actually like a compartment for I think it's like half a dozen like stormtroopers or whatever. So there's a bunch of like it's like set up almost like a dropship.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay, I don't mean to cut you off if you're going to go farther into that. I just want to point out that Ben's costume here is so lazy, it annoys the crap out of me. It's like it's just wearing like a black knitted sweater.
Yeah.
It really is. And like sweatpants.
Dude, it's like the Soviet era like wool jacket. Like I can't even remember.
Not even. Yeah. It's like a long sleeved sweater. It's like he took off his like medieval garb and he's just wearing this medieval sweater and sweatpants. It's like it's like they caught him on Sunday.
Yeah, he's sitting in front of the TV watching the
jeez, had to be today.
Yeah, right.
I notice it every time. It looks so un-Star Wars. It just bothers the crap out of me.
Yeah. Had time to change his shirt after he got stabbed in the chest.
Yeah, that might have been what it was. They're too lazy to like put a scar there or something.
Or even just a hole. Hole in the shirt. Do it.
Do it. Every time.
No idea.
He's like, I don't understand it either, but we're going to roll with it.
People are using that as a GIF and then sending out tweets like, "This is me after watching, the sequel trilogy or whatever." It's like, why did it need to happen? No idea.
What a bunch of scrubs.
Dude, they just got like stomped on.
Yeah.
The Knights of Ren are so crappy.
Yeah,
pretty funny.
Dude, like Snoke's Praetorian Guards put up a better fight.
Yeah,
dude,
they did by
honestly.
a lot.
Oh yeah.
They really did.
Like this whole movie is so rushed, dude. Like it makes me sad.
Yeah. And then just boom, like nothing.
This life-sucking concept was something in the Colin Trevorrow script as well.
Oh, was it? Okay. Yeah.
Oh.
No!
Yes!
All right, I gotta go to work, guys. I'll see you later.
All right,
catch you later, Reed.
Yeah.
Josh, I don't think you've been more joyous as in that very moment.
Oh, in the theater, I actually I was like, yes!
Like screamed out.
Yeah.
Yes!
Woo!
It's like, what was it?
Oh man, so many ships.
It's the whole galaxy showing up to help.
I know. They didn't show up last time.
How did they get through the chicken soup though?
That's what I was always wondering. Like none of them got there with the Wayfinder device.
Yeah, because they needed that special wayfinder to get through it, didn't they?
I think so, unless they just charted Rey's path in the X-wing and
because it seemed like getting through that whole like red soupy area, you needed the wayfinder to find a way through, kind of like the
Yeah,
you think you'd be able to navigate through it, right?
Right.
People.
It's like, why are these reviews so bad? It's like, they're just fans.
They're not critics, sir. They're just fans.
Oh man, so good.
If they do another one, you're going to have to cut just that clip and subtitle it and use that.
Yeah.
I also love that him sucking the life force out of them gives him new robes.
Yeah. That's the most ridiculous part of this entire movie. It's like the Force is also a seamstress now.
Yeah.
And yeah. I mean,
his own private Force wardrobe.
so like I can buy it in Harry Potter when Voldemort comes back and he gets a robe on him. Like I can totally buy it because
it's all magic and like smoky. Yeah, it looks like smoke around him before it forms into a robe.
Exactly, and somehow I'm able to translate that with the magic and everything. I'm like, you know what? I could see that being a thing. Like he's able to turn like, dark smoke into like this cloak kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree. Makes sense. And it's cool is when he walks on the bottom, it's still all smoky.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But this, I'm like, what the heck, man? Like.
Man, do you like the lightning gear? To me, it looks kind of weird.
It looks so dumb.
It looks like chunky, right?
Yeah. It's like a fiber. I'm watching a fiber optic commercial for Bell right now. Blazing speed fast.
Or like when they do the cheesy Force lightning in like the low budget movies, and they use those like garden like hoses with the lights in them, like that.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of the effect, but okay. Listen very closely for all the voices.
Should I turn subtitles on?
Yeah. Turn them on. Yeah.
Mace Windu. Ahsoka.
Yeah. You got Luminara, Ayla, Adi.
I'm glad they did this because it ties to the first one, right?
Kanan even. Yeah, like it at least ties to the prequels and to the animated series.
Yeah, I agree. It's because the middle one just straight up ignored this.
Oh yeah, totally. And honestly, I just wish that we had seen the Force ghosts. Like
agreed. That'd be
like
cool.
In this shot right here where we see her with the lightsaber, like it would have been so good if we had just seen like a crowd of Force ghosts just like come out of
That
the
was so
shadows.
cool.
Kind of like
they
how,
could have done it like in
Return
Harry
of the
Potter
King style, like Return, like yeah, exactly. With the council of ghosts or whatever.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I was thinking like it'd be cool if we did like even like where it's more like even in her head, right? Where it's from like something like Harry Potter, at the end of Order of the Phoenix, and all those ghosts come out of Voldemort's wand, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, something like that, or even Return of the King style, where they just come out of nowhere and like there's her and like an army of like ghosts behind her. You know.
I can see that. They all just appear.
Like the Aragorn moment where he's got all the ghosts behind him. Yeah, like that would have been sick.
This part is so lame.
Yeah.
I have 2 lightsabers.
I've been duped again.
Right? The exact same way. The thing is, again, he destroys himself.
Yeah.
We've already seen that he can use the Force to just grab her and hold her still. Why doesn't he just stop using lightning and grab her with the Force?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that was badass.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah. That death scene's pretty awesome.
Right? Just blowing out the window.
Yeah. I love how you see him kind of like lurch backwards.
Like silhouetted.
Yeah. Just knocks his wing, Poe goes flying off, hits an asteroid or something. Yeah. Oh, whoops. Didn't mean that to happen.
It's pretty cool to see a Star Destroyer smash into a planet. Just saying.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. Although it is kind of weird how they came out of that ground completely fine and then going back into it is a problem. Because didn't they like come out breaking the surface of the ground?
I'm so lost. I don't know what you mean.
Like earlier on in the film when the Star Destroyers first reveal themselves. They come out of the ground of the planet or whatever.
That's a good point. I feel like if it was hollowed out, though, like it wasn't going through much dirt, like it was a giant cavern.
Yeah, maybe.
And then they're just crashing into like proper planet.
I guess so. Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't very clear when I was watching it to kind of.
Yeah, I never thought about the two together, to be honest.
Yeah.
And credits.
Yeah, they should have just left her dead.
Well, I don't get is why they had to use Leia's lightsaber. Why couldn't they have used Luke's green one?
I don't know.
It's weird that they just ignored that lightsaber for the entire trilogy.
Yeah, pretty much. Like Rian Johnson's the only one who brought it back.
Did he even bring it back?
Well, he was the one who made the flashback scenes.
Oh, just the flashback scenes. Yeah, you're right. But we never see it in like this timeline.
No. Like we never see it in the current time of the films. Yeah, it's all predecessing stuff. And then we saw. Oh, actually, you know what? That's not true. We saw it in this movie's flashback as well, with younger Luke.
With training.
Yeah.
It's still not this timeline. Actually, I think we see it at the very, very end, but that's it.
Do we? No,
Doesn't-
we don't.
doesn't-
That's still these two lightsabers still.
So then what happened to it?
I don't know. You know what would be interesting or funny is like Ben Solo's like, I think I'm gonna try bring her back with that ability that I only just learned, and he does it, and he's like, yes, I'm gonna kiss her because I'm gonna kiss her because I get to spend the rest of my life with this like with this girl, and then he just dies because he didn't realize the consequences of like trading lives or whatever.
He got duped.
Yeah, he got duped. He just got screwed. And then Ray doesn't bring him back.
They could both live a half-life.
Yeah.
If they come,
Such
they
a
come
good
back.
Harry Potter reference.
Right. The unicorn blood.
Yeah. A half-life.
A cursed life.
A curse.
A half-life. Just immediately dies.
Yeah. Just right away. Look, she doesn't bring it back. She doesn't even try. Does she?
So would that be considered the kiss of death?
Oh, that's why, because he gets disappeared. Yeah, that's like the kiss of death, I guess. I do like that. I like
How
that.
they at the same time?
I like how Leia was like holding on almost,
Yeah,
like
that is
almost
cool.
as if she was kind of like in him a little bit. Like when she kind of passed, she like still stayed within the
Mhm.
the physical reality just to kind of get into his head a little bit, and I don't know, kind of wait for him as well. Like maybe at that point she knew what was going to happen. So.
It's a good point. It's pretty cool. All these giant Star Destroyer chunks like falling from the sky.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Aesthetically, it's cool. These movies are visually very awesome.
Yeah, some great like nice looking shots in there.
Is the ghost in there?
See,
I always
like
wonder.
the ghost. Yeah, it is in there. Yeah.
Aha!
See, I don't understand why we see all these ships around the galaxy already.
Big
During
detonating.
during the battle, did they say it all during the
So
film?
weird.
Yeah, those Ewoks don't look very good, do they?
It looks the one on the right. The one on the left's okay. The one on the right looks like real
Yeah.
weird.
Did they mention in the film at all that these ships were already being like distributed or across the galaxy?
I think those are all the original First Order ships, so they were everywhere. They have been for a long time. They own half the galaxy, right?
Yeah.
And they were taking over. So at this point, they probably have more than half, because at the first movie, they had half.
Also, was Palpatine's plan to just rule over with fear with like a ship over every planet, or did he intend to actually blow up every single planet?
I think it'd be a rule of fear, because if you blew it up, what would you be ruling over?
It's nothing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think
that's what I would think too.
Well, that's why he created the Death Star. Was then right after the Death Star went live, he got rid of the Senate because he didn't need them anymore. Because he could rule through fear instead of through manipulating politics.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. So, why?
Because they screwed him in the first time. But they already gave him a medal in the comics or something, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. So this is just a second medal.
Well, it could be that was like Hans or whoever, right?
Maybe,
so then he
maybe.
got it as a gift.
But then why would Maz Kanata give it to him? Like,
I don't know. Maybe she found it in a drawer.
it's like, we need to make this character relevant. Let's just give her the medal. All right, JJ, whatever you say.
It'd be funny if he like roared. It was just like subtitles, like "Little late."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The first time ever that you see Chewbacca subtitles.
Exactly. About time.
Well, even more mind blowing. It's like, what if he actually started talking? It's like, you could talk this entire time. It's like,
well, yeah.
There, this part right here, they acknowledge. Yeah, there. Let's find out. It's like, well. I think I'm trying to remember the reason now why they cut it, and I think it was because she was taken way too young to remember, but then Lando recognizes her and says like, "Oh, you're my daughter," and then it was a way too kind of quick, cut to this moment right here that they're like, "Okay, we can't just drop a bomb like that and
move on."
Move on, yeah. So they just cut it out.
I guess I could see that. If
I could see why they cut it out, but yeah, I can see why they cut it out. I'm like, well, whatever. I wasn't too attached to that plot anyway, but
it was just like a little crumb they threw at you, right?
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Classic Jawas.
Yeah. See, I do like all this stuff, and I like that they left all the gravestones.
Yeah, that's
like,
pretty cool.
Like Shmi's gravestone is there, and that's because I think we talked about that in the episode 4 commentary track, where I mentioned, do we ever see Shmi Skywalker's gravestone?
Yeah, we never pan out wide enough to know.
Exactly, the shot's never wide enough to see it, but in this one, you actually do see it.
That's pretty cool. I mean, right there is JJ at least acknowledging some of the history.
Yeah, at least it's something. At least I'm pretty sure that's the gravestones, but I don't know. It looked like it to me.
So are you excited for the spin-off movie where someone finds the lightsabers?
Oh, man.
Or the comic book story?
Somebody goes and just digs it up again.
Yep. And we start over again.
Yeah. And then somebody, it's another like girl on Exegol that living on a planet with crashed star destroyers, and this trilogy just all over again. Do you like her lightsaber?
Well, it's weird that it's yellow. But why would she know to make a yellow lightsaber? But
I think, well, they've actually been introducing more of the yellow lightsabers through the canon.
Yeah, but how would Rey specifically know about yellow lightsabers?
I don't know. I think it's probably just the color of her kyber crystal wherever she got it, right?
Yeah, fair enough.
See, I always thought that she would end up using the crystal in... Like, I thought she might use the crystals in, like, Leia and Luke's lightsabers or something.
That's what I thought she would have done, too.
But, yeah, I guess she went out and got her own, in which case there's a very high chance it could have even been purple or green or blue or whatever, right? And yellow being one of the options. So...
I'm just disappointed it's not a double-bladed.
Yeah, that was a missed opportunity, and I think like they did an okay job at acknowledging it with like the dark Rey moments, but the whole movie of Duel of Fates would have had her wielding a double-bladed lightsaber.
That's what it should have been.
At least the majority of it looked like it would have been based on concept art. So it should have been that, right? Like,
that'd be cool. Honestly, that was my preference. It just made so much sense. It's weird that they didn't like commit. Man.
It is, yeah. But
ironically, the only Jedi we see wielding double-bladed lightsabers are yellow.
Yeah, well, that and Ahsoka's little Shoto lightsaber from the Clone Wars is also kind of a yellowy.
It's a yellowy green, yeah. It's kind of like a lighter green.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that. In the Star Wars comics right now, they're actually insinuating that Luke wielded a yellow-bladed lightsaber after Episode 5 before he makes his green one. There's I forget. I think somebody either gave it to him that knew some sort of Jedi or whatever who left it with them when they died or something. There was some sort of storyline that they're doing right now in the Marvel comics that take place between episode 5 and 6. So there's a yellow one there. Jedi Fallen Order left the opportunity open to having a yellow lightsaber along with some other colors that we had never seen before, like orange and all that.
Okay. Which originally in the non-canon was wielded by Sith.
Orange?
Yeah, they had red and orange lightsabers.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess now it's just Sith for red, but and then what else? I think there was a yellow lightsaber that Vader fought. It was his first Jedi kill, and Vader's kyber crystal was previously yellow, I believe, before he made it bleed.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And this is, I assume, a crystal that he would have killed a Jedi and taken?
This is the lightsaber I think that he ended up killing someone, and at least I think that's what it was.
Yeah, because I guess I've never read the story. I'm sure it's canonized somewhere now, but I've never read the story of how Vader gets his next crystal after he loses his original lightsaber.
Yeah. Never mind. Sorry, that's a green lightsaber. That the guy that he got his kyber crystal from. Sorry, not yellow. It's green. I'm trying to think of somebody else. I'm pretty sure there was someone in the canon, at least in the comic books, that had yellow lightsaber. But whatever. It's a thing. Yeah. I guess it's the first one that we've seen on live action film, which is interesting enough. But yeah. So I mean, this movie, just overall, what do you think about this movie? Because I mean,
well, I still feel the same way that I said at the beginning. The movie had a lot of cool ideas, and I personally am not opposed to Palpatine coming back. Darth Plagueis would have been my preference, but barring that, I'm not opposed to Palpatine coming back, just because I don't know how you do a bigger villain than Palpatine. Because
other than Plagueis.
Exactly. Because that's my opinion on it. I don't think you can make some new random person say, oh, he was stronger than Palpatine all along. Because we had these other 6 movies that built Palpatine up to be the Emperor. Mm-hmm. So then to have another sequel trilogy, just some random guy shows up, it's not as impactful.
That's something I think that, and this is also why I like Duel of Fates better, because even though they didn't go with the whole Palpatine, Plagueis plotline, whatever the case is, right? This movie brought Palpatine back. My suggestion of having, instead of Palpatine, having Plagueis / Snoke be the thing, that would have been cool too. But I think when it comes down to this trilogy embracing itself as its own identity, which is what I think they were going for, and which is why Colin Trevorrow's script got so far in the planning phase, that really the true villain of this trilogy should have been Ben Solo. He should have not been redeemed. He should have just been
fallen the whole way through.
Yeah, he should have just followed through with his character, and that also would have made him different than Anakin, who is. This is his story, or should be, right? And and it's called the Skywalker saga for a reason, right? And that was George's intention when he did the prequels, is that he made the Skywalker saga, this 6-part saga about this character, right? And that's no accident, because everyone's favorite character, a lot of people's favorite character, is Darth Vader.
It is, for sure.
Even though Luke is the protagonist of those films, it's still technically Vader's story. But
the problem is, this is the issue they had. The way they created Ben is he never had that persona that Vader had. He was never that commanding, right? So and this came across a lot in the middle movie, where he finally became the supreme leader, but he didn't have the presence. He felt like some kid who was given the reins, and he only got it because there was no one else, right? He didn't earn it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where the storyline in Duel of Fates takes it to a much better place, because he didn't earn it, and he's still trying to get there, right? And so like they just took him down to the gutter kind of thing. Like it's like this
Yeah.
kid's never gonna stop trying to be Vader. He's never gonna stop trying to get that what he doesn't have, right?
Like I would almost expect if they went down that plot line of him continuing to be the leader of this giant galactic order of not space Nazis, essentially, I would expect a lot of troops to start to undermine him because they wouldn't think that he is the rightful ruler, right?
Yeah.
And then he would have to do something to like consolidate his power.
Like Ben Solo, that is?
Yeah, he would have to do something to like prove that he's the one who should be in control. So like let's say for example, like with the Nazis, if Hitler was killed and someone else stepped up to take over as the Führer, I'm sure there would be a lot of like segregation, a lot of different groups would all separate off, right? Because they would all have their own ideals and idea of how it should work. Yeah, so if there's this giant galactic organization and all of a sudden Kylo just like overnight becomes their new leader and he's clearly not what the old leader was, being like Snoke, there would be a lot of people that would be second guessing it and see opportunity to take over themselves or to go do their own thing, right? Like there'd be a lot of different people all trying to do something different.
It's interesting that you bring that up because that's exactly what we see happen to the Empire when it falls apart. When the
Empire and I think that's what would happen again. I do.
Yeah, like warmongering moffs and generals,
profiteering.
Like that, right? Yeah, exactly. So like that I think is something that had a lot of potential with Duel of Fates. I think if they went that direction, even though he's like now the guy in charge. Is he really in charge? And now we see him striving for even more power than he's already got, right?
Yeah. And like if it was a smaller organization, like let's say it was like a company, I could see that. But we're talking about half of the galaxy is ruled by this one guy who was Snoke. And he's just like assassinated. Another guy just like steps into his place. You expect the entire like trillions of people to just go along with it, and no one's gonna like challenge it.
Yeah,
it just seems so unlikely to me.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's take a moment to talk about some of the character development differences between Trevorrow's version of the film. So. Now that we've just watched Rise of Skywalker, here's some things, and if any of them stick out, just bring them up. But I'll run through like 2 or 3 at a time.
Sure.
So the first one, Rose Tico had way more to do in Duel of Fates than she did in Rise of Skywalker, and that's
not surprising.
Yeah, and that's not something difficult to achieve. She was barely in Rise of Skywalker. Rose was just in about every important moment from.
She was barely above a cameo in this movie, to be honest.
Yeah, so that's something that would have been a huge difference. Another big one, Rey has a double-bladed blue lightsaber made from the broken remnants of Anakin's lightsaber, it having been destroyed in The Last Jedi during the Force struggle with Kylo Ren.
I think that's a better direction. The fact that she rebuilt it to be the exact same lightsaber with no knowledge of how lightsabers work, to me, is very silly.
Yeah.
It's like she just taped it together and it still worked.
Yeah, it's so stupid, yeah. Rey, who wears all black, doesn't have any hesitation and doubt that she displays in The Rise of Skywalker. Trevorrow described her as a grown woman, powerful, strong. She also has nightmares of Kylo Ren due to their strong Force bond.
That's kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah, so they kind of turned it into this interesting, like, this has got some consequences to it as well.
Mm-hmm. Which makes sense because
in each other's heads, right?
In the previous movie, Last Jedi, they were drawn together, right? And then that's how they made that connection, and they defeated Snoke through that.
And Snoke was binding their minds, right? And
and then immediately after that, you think that Ben is going to become like a good guy, a hero, and then instead he sees his opportunity to grasp the power that he wanted.
Yep.
And he turns towards the dark side again, and they're forced to go different directions. So I could definitely see that. Then their bond continuing to have like negative consequences for Rey. I can see
Yeah.
that.
And
Seems pretty
and
cool.
one of them being light, one of them being dark. Like, it's an interesting like physical, and this is one of the things I really love about Last Jedi is that there's like a physical kind of like yin yang effect going on, like a balance sort
Yeah.
of thing. And
Yeah,
yeah,
totally. And they alluded
it,
a lot to like there's always got to be a balance of power in the Force, right? Between the positive and the
yeah,
negative. There has to be balance.
yeah,
And now that there's only two Force wielders left, all of the power of both the positive and the negative all reside within these two individuals.
right. So here's a big one. In Duel of Fates, there's a lot of sexual tension between Rey and Poe. They even kiss
What?
at one point. The only
Okay.
thing holding them back is Luke's voice telling her that Jedi should have no attachments.
With Poe.
By the way, I'm getting this all off of a website called Fansided, which apparently they have claimed to have read the majority of the outline. So, I'm not stating these as like 100% facts because
Yeah.
it's not like we can actually get our hands on the script in the first place. It's just like leaked, confirmed leaked outlines. But yeah,
I actually think that that last point is kind of ridiculous. I think that case they should have actually swapped Poe and Finn, and it should have been her and Finn because they have that past history already, and it makes a lot more sense if they were going to go that route. Her and Poe met each other at the end of the last movie.
Yeah, and I think they're drawing this off of, at least if this is true, if this was in the script, Trevorrow was probably feeding off of that scene where they kind of shake hands and they kind of smile and there's a bit of something there, but
like
yeah,
she gets a crush because like she's in high school.
Yeah, it was like a little crush or something like that, but I don't know.
I don't know that way.
I don't know about it either. Yeah,
I personally liked the Kylo Rey dynamic.
I do too.
I thought that was good. If they weren't going to do that, I'd rather her be interested in Finn, just because it feels like all the movies Finn is after her, and she just like shuts him down.
Friend zone.
Yeah, she has friend zone.
The friend zone,
right? So I personally see that like maybe Finn, like they do the high school movie thing where it's like the guy likes the girl, but the girl doesn't see it, and then she's after like the bad boy, which is Kylo, and then finally at the end she realizes what was in front of her the entire time was everything she ever needed, and that was Finn.
Yeah, you could write a book, man. The Knights of Ren have a ton of stuff to do in this movie. They even have names. There's Hataska Ren, who wields the Darksaber somehow. He's the leader, armored and caped in black. Ott Ren and Laurel Ren work as a duo, and Jadek Ren is the rogue, his mask evoking an angry ghost, and their ship is called the Knife Nine.
Sounds better. Just the fact that, like, I appreciate that this movie acknowledged that they exist after dropping their name in the first movie.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they didn't really feel like anything different than regular stormtroopers, really.
Exactly. It's
they just had different costumes.
And this movie just didn't do enough to even service JJ's own other movie. It's like he made this movie without even thinking too much about some of the stuff he already set up in the first movie. I agree. And again, if they ran into the excuse of not having enough time, they should have just made the movie longer. Like, would have solved every problem. People would have sat there for 3 hours of Star Wars, no problem.
I think so too. It is. I don't know. There's a lot of missed opportunities, and
so many.
I felt like that happened throughout this entire trilogy pretty consistently.
Oh yeah, so much. I mean, I still can't believe that we haven't had a scene at all where Luke, like Mark Hamill and Hayden Christensen are in the scene together. Like,
that's so true.
It's like the biggest flop ever. Like, I mean, Return of the Jedi was purposely like, fixed up by George in the special editions to have that. You know,
It's true.
and
He did
and
set it
it's
up
like
perfectly.
he set it up perfectly, and it's something I know for a fact we would have had if George had his way with this trilogy. Like,
Yeah, I can see that.
no doubt about it. I am
There's so many
convinced.
rumors about it too.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
rumors
there was.
all the time, like, oh, Hayden Christensen was on set.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I mean, and we're talking about all these things. It's like based on with Hayden Christensen and all that, and with the sequels, and it's like this is all based on like original draft episode 7 stuff, right? Like I mean, like, and there's 3 movies to a trilogy, so
Yeah,
at least somewhere in there we would have had him or even Liam Neeson show up again.
that'd be
Like
cool.
that would have been awesome,
Or if
dude.
they
Like
had Ewan McGregor show up as Obi-Wan.
yeah, just like age him a bit. Like if they can de-age people in all these Marvel films, like they can totally
Oh
age
yeah,
somebody. Like
yeah, no, absolutely, yeah,
no
no, it's
problem. I
it's
mean,
easier, way easier to make people older than it is to make people younger.
I know, and it's like they have 6 Star Wars movies behind this trilogy. Why don't they use it? It's like they build up
Well,
this
it's
epic
the same as the
conclusion.
aliens, man. They just refuse to use stuff that's been established. Instead, they just have to keep cramming in new stuff and
It's
show
so
no
crappy,
like
man.
homage or like relation to anything that came before it. And I think that's exactly what everyone gets so annoyed about.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like I honestly, like, when I think about it in the context of the saga, this trilogy just does not work at all. Like from the first movie to the last, like doesn't fit. It's just like it's almost like it purposely goes out of its way not to have anything to do with the other movies at all.
It's really clunky for sure. I will say that.
And then the few times that they try and connect it, it feels like it's forceful. Like it's like Palpatine's back, boom. Like it's like we got to try and make sense with the other movies. Let's bring back the villain from those movies, and hopefully it makes sense, right? It's
I
like,
feel like this trilogy had a lot of potential, but it got lost in too many cooks in the kitchen,
oh yeah, yeah,
and
for sure.
it just kind of
Not enough
forced.
pre-planning.
Yeah, honestly, I think that's where it got lost. I think it had a lot of potential, and they could have done something really cool, but they didn't do enough pre-planning, and the whole thing just didn't come together very well. It had a lot of
Mhm.
cool individual moments that were fun and interesting. Some stuff that was absolutely visually astounding, but the story itself, I do think, feels a little awkward.
It does, yeah, for sure. Um, Here, let me read off a few more points here. Force sensitive broom boy from Last Jedi is alive and well.
So they actually
Okay.
would have done something with Broom Boy.
They would have. Well, Colin Trevorrow would have. Hux, now a chancellor, is pure forced first order evil, and he's not a spy. They would have gone full like Nazi Hux that we saw.
That's
from
what they
Force
should have
Awakens.
done. Yeah, they basically
He's-
what Pride was in this movie should have been Hux.
Yes. Yeah.
I know that JJ didn't do it. Like if I were to guess, JJ wouldn't. He didn't do it in this movie because Hux in the previous movie became too much of a comic relief and didn't carry the persona that like was wanted for a character of that position.
Right.
I do totally get that. So again, this comes down to the clunkiness of different directors.
Yeah. And
But I do think Hux would have been able to fill that position.
yeah, I think so. I think if they played his character well enough in the script that they could have pulled it, because they did it in Force Awakens, right? Like JJ.
Yeah,
set
that's
up
exactly
this-
what he was in Force Awakens. It was
Yeah,
only
he's-
Last Jedi where he started becoming comical and really lost his persona.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like a
In
completely
those
different
two
character.
movies, he's an entirely different character.
Yeah. Yeah, and in this one, in Colin Trevorrow's version, he's in charge of the First Order troops on Coruscant, lives a life of luxury with his own collection of Force-sensitive objects that includes a Jedi's lightsaber in a glass case.
Oh, so we would have actually got to see Coruscant.
Yes. Yeah, actually, the majority of the movie, the final battle, takes place on Coruscant.
That would have been awesome. I would have loved that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because this entire trilogy ignored Coruscant altogether.
Well, and any of the planets from the prequels and the originals, aside from the last
Tatooine.
aside from the last section of the Rise of Skywalker where we see Endor, Bespin, Tatooine, it's like
they're like flashback. Like
yeah, it's like
cameos,
okay,
you know?
it's like throw us a bone, why not? But whatever. Uh, when we see Kylo Ren at first, he's on Mustafar. Well, it's just Vader's planet. He's in a ragged cloak and has a beard, and he's got a droid companion that stays with him throughout the script. His name is VX-20, and they actually go into Vader's castle. A forgotten, decrepit cathedral, crumbling pieces of structure litter on the ground, untouched for decades.
I gotta say, so far as we're going through the checklist, it sounds a lot better.
Well, I mean, like they came up with this whole castle in Rogue One. It would have been the perfect tie into even that movie too, right?
Yeah,
like,
he was already on Mustafar, so why wouldn't he go to Vader's castle? Unless Vader's castle was destroyed.
I mean, he's a Vader fanboy. Why not, right? Like,
it's weird that
it's perfect.
Well, I guess we're left to assume as fans that he had already done that years ago.
I guess so, but I mean, like, I want to watch a movie where this happens.
Agreed. It's weird that he wouldn't do
it. Exactly. At one point, Kylo Ren gets horribly injured and has to undergo painful surgery to repair what's left, just like Anakin when he became Darth Vader.
Yeah, so this is the thing you're talking about earlier in the recording, yes, where he like his face and the mask become like one.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. I'd be down for that.
I'd be down. Yeah, more damage on Ben, like exactly what I mentioned earlier. Like, he just embraces his persona so much better. Leia has all gray hair and wears white robes. And she lives all the way through the movie. So obviously this is a huge complication to this script. I wonder if Carrie Fisher hadn't died, that they may have gone with Colin Trevorrow's version of the movie.
And you think that might have been the difference?
I feel like that was a contributing factor to why they didn't go his direction, because he wasn't able to fully collaborate with them in a way to write this film without that character.
Well, did Colin Trevorrow ever say specifically why he stepped away? Like, what was the main thing?
Oh, it was 100% due to creative differences. Like, he wanted to continue writing this iteration of the story, and then I think the whole Carrie Fisher thing happened, and it became a little bit of a problem, and then I think they just couldn't figure out a way to move forward from that point onwards.
So Carrie?
So yeah, so like, I don't know if that is like the deciding factor. I don't know if they ever pinned it on that reason in particular. But I mean, this script got far enough that they started doing all these concept artworks.
So, maybe you should look up some dates, but I felt like Trevorrow had stepped away before Carrie passed away.
Let me look this up. Colin Trevorrow, why Colin Trevorrow was fired? So yeah, I'm not entirely sure when this happened. Here, there's an article I'm reading from September 5th, 2017. Is that around the same time, I think?
Yeah, I'm looking up right now. It's 2017.
It was like fall of 2017. And when did Last Jedi came out?
I remember Carrie Fisher passing away in like the New Year though, around Christmas.
2017. She died December 27th, 2016.
There you go. Okay, I knew it was around Christmas.
So Carrie did die before Colin Trevorrow stepped out.
Okay, at least gives us some context.
Yeah, and that was quite a while after she died that he did step down. But it makes me wonder how much more of the pre-planning they had to do, and if during that entire time that they were pre-planning, like, how much did they have to try and change, going back and forth and stuff? Because I'm assuming by that point, when she died, that was when around the same time that I think that was when Rogue One came out. Because I remember,
it would have been around there.
Yeah, and Last Jedi was already in post-production around that time, or at least going into that. I think it had already started.
I think that's right. Force Awakens was 2015. It means that Rogue One was Christmas 2016, and Carrie passed away like just after it
2016.
came out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just like literally a week or two later, and then Last Jedi came out the following December,
Yeah.
which meant a lot of the filming had already wrapped on that film by the time she died, which meant that Colin Trevorrow and Ryan Johnson had already had long chats
Yeah.
about the continuation of this plot, right?
And
Um,
obviously, The Last Jedi was already set up with Leia living the whole way through, and they've already decided to kill off in that
yes.
one.
Yep.
They killed off Luke.
Exactly.
So that means that the only original trilogy member left, excluding Lando, but the original trio, uh, who would have been Leia, was now gone. So all the original characters were gone before Trevorrow even got to start.
Mm. Yeah. Um, here, there's. I got 3 more points here. Luke Skywalker is a Force ghost. He constantly talks to Kylo Ren throughout the film, as well as to Leia and Rey. Mark Hamill would have had a lot more to do in this movie.
I think that would have been better. I think he would have made a good Force Ghost. He should have done at least as much as Obi-Wan did in the original trilogy.
Yeah,
as
exactly. Like, would have been so much better in that scenario. Lando does show up in the final act to save the day, just like in Rise of Skywalker. That would be the same. And a new trooper called the Brute Trooper is introduced. They're mercenaries paid to even go farther with brutality than regular stormtroopers. They have chrome-like armor like Phasma. Whatever.
Meh, yeah.
Yeah. So motivation behind the hero and villain are different. Instead of searching for Palpatine, Kylo Ren and Rey are both searching for an ancient force-sensitive planet called Mortis. That's right. The extremely popular story arc from the animated series Star Wars: The Clone Wars plays a role in the Duel of Fates. The overarching story of the film is wildly different as well. Coruscant is the shell of its former self, no longer the pristine capital of the Republic as seen in the prequel films. It is now an oppressed planet ruled over by the First Order. A boy named Dad.
Confusing.
Dad helped the downtrodden people where there were in the name of the resistance. Early in the film, Rey, Poe, Finn, Rose, BB-8 steal the Dreadnought class Star Destroyer called the Eclipse, which is a huge callback to Palpatine's ship, I believe, which is also called the Eclipse. This ship is massive, so massive that it can hold all the resistance ships at once, while also holding an entire army full of First Order starships, walkers, and weapons. The ragtag resistance of The Last Jedi is no more. With the Eclipse as their flagship, they are now a proper army. So this ship is the explanation for why the resistance can continue to fight, because this tiny group of people goes out, steals this ship, and now they've got like all the weapons and ships and walkers and whatever they need to actually fight the First Order.
Yeah.
The Old Republic is mentioned a ton in this script. There's a beacon that can send a signal to the entire galaxy, calling friends of the Jedi to war. That beacon is located in the Jedi Temple, or what's left of it, on Coruscant. Force Ghost Luke continues to train Rey, and she does training in a Jedi dojo. There she has a vision of Mortis at the same time as Kylo Ren, who is now on Coruscant and near death. Medical droids work to save him, and he gets a new mask to cover his badly burned face. Like in all the sequel films, Hux continues to plot against Kylo. He answers to a group of super rich aliens who actually run the First Order. The way they are described, they could be in the same group of elites from the Canto Bight storyline.
I don't mind that. It's like the banking clan.
Yeah, they're like the banking clan of like the First Order kind of thing, I guess. They're the investors.
Because as we learned throughout several of the extended, I think like one of the actual like cutting room floor episodes, that the banking clan was in control of a lot of the separatists, right?
Yeah.
They had the Ponzi scheme going on. They were funding both sides of the war.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually kind of liked that a little bit, because it's like adds that kind of scumminess to.
Oh, for sure.
Because I feel like a lot of these sequel films, they're just too clean. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's not enough scum and villainy in these films.
Yeah, actually, no, that is very true. We don't run into any Jabba-like characters at all. No bounty hunters. I
No,
mean, we
like
meet a
nothing.
handful of side characters that are like spice runners or whatever. Like this last one we met, Poe's
Yeah,
ex-girlfriend or whatever. But
but they're
that's
not.
more like there's no storyline that has to do with any scum.
No.
There's just
Yeah.
like we come across a couple of characters that are from that lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like them sitting in Mouse Kanata's castle or whatever, having a drink and some fruit
Yeah,
doesn't replace
the side story that
the
was
cantina
Jabba after
scenes
half the
and
characters.
yeah, any of that stuff, right? Yeah.
No, I have to say, so far the checkpoints of the movie itself do sound like it would have been a really good film.
That's not even my favorite. I mean, we've hit the whole Mortis thing, the Force Ghost Luke
Yeah,
thing, everything. This
the
part,
Mortis thing, man.
let me read you this part here. This part is where it gets really good. Kylo Ren searches for and finds an ancient master called Tor Valum. So I'm not so keen on the fact that he's a Sith master. I think this should be maybe even Plagueis, but who knows? He sits among the remains of an ancient Jedi and Sith battle. Armor, weapons, and skeletons are everywhere. The mountain of junk moves, and from it, as if disguised within, comes Tor Valum, 7,000 years old, an alien of unknown origin, spinally and tense, sinew and muscle pulled tight. When they meet, Kylo actually utters the name of Darth Plagueis, Palpatine's former master. This is a huge nerd moment for me. Apologies. Oh, this is the writer talking.
Yeah.
So it turns out that this Tor Valum character is Darth Plagueis because Darth Plagueis is his Darth name. So I guess Tor Valum is
Okay.
Darth Plagueis.
Well, that in itself would have made the movie better.
Yeah.
Because Darth Plagueis existing.
Oh yeah. Tor Valum.
That being said, I'm not super keen on the obvious like Sith version of Yoda.
Yeah.
Is kind of what they're going for.
That's fair. Yeah. That's the part that I'm kind of like not. Like,
I'd rather it have just been Plagueis as we know him as Palpatine's master and not some weird ancient guy.
I think and again this is not necessarily confirmed to be the final script. In fact, there's probably other iterations that they tried before they decided to part ways, right? So this is just one of the scripts that made it to concept art level approval, and I guess that would have been a minor detail, but I mean, Tor Valum, aka Plagueis, like how old he is, whatever, like those minor things, it's all it needs is like a simple like change of script, and that's it, right? And a visual change as well. But even though we've never seen Plagueis, and in the canon, we still don't really know that much about him. All those facts come from the EU. Technically, they could change that stuff if they really wanted to. But
it's true because we know him as a moon, but he doesn't necessarily have to be that.
Exactly, yeah. But I like your thinking as well, though. I'd prefer that as well. Like the one that we know from the EU, that's the one I would have been preferred to have been served with. But
so I decided to look up the name Tor Valum because there is so much leaked concept art.
Oh yeah.
And so I guess there is an actual design for him, and he is definitely not a moon.
That's right. Yeah. So there is one of the concept arts does depict this character, and he's got like 6 eyes and whatever. Yeah.
He looks like something from like the Alien franchise.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like the idea that he's Darth Plagueis. The concept is there, and I love the fact that they included that. He raises a shade of Darth Vader for Kylo Ren to fight. So it's basically like a repetitive moment of like Luke in the cave on Dagobah, fighting Vader, except it's Kylo Ren fighting Vader, and in this vision, Kylo loses the fight, like gets his ass whooped, and then angrily confronts his new master and kills him. And so Kylo Ren kills
Plagueis?
another Sith master. Yeah, he kills Plagueis, and that is the end of Plagueis, I guess.
What? See, that's dumb.
That's the part I don't like.
That's ridiculous. They have this huge lead up of this guy who's been around for all 6 films, and then
Boom, gone.
Ben just gets mad and cuts him in half, and it's over.
Yeah. That's the part I was like,
that's weak. That's really weak.
Yeah. So Kylo learns to drain the life force from beings to heal himself. And it's called the Light of the Living Force, and it gets used in a pivotal moment in the end of the film. That's different from The Rise of Skywalker. In that film, Rey learns to use the Force to heal, and Kylo senses she has grown stronger. In Duel of Fates, Rey senses he's grown stronger after he kills Tor Valum. So, on Coruscant, Finn and Rose ignite the Jedi Temple Kyber crystal beacon that calls everyone to battle against evil. And the light is shown traveling into distant star systems, calling for aid. And this leads us to a very exciting and very different second and third act of the script. It's far more exciting than what happened in Rise, anyways, is what they say. So a beam from the temple touches planet after planet, kind of like a laser going across the galaxy. We see familiar faces in this homage as each planet gets touched by the light. Bosk from Empire Strikes Back briefly shows up. Kylo Ren stops the transmission from the temple.
Bosk shows up?
Yeah, just one of the many cameos that we would have seen in this homage. Yeah. Kylo Ren stops the transmission from the temple from thousands of light years away by using the Force. Okay, then. Rose seemingly dies when a First Order trooper shoots her with a blaster and then falls into the rubble of the temple. Rey is recognized everywhere she goes, so she has to hide her identity. So she's kind of like a celebrity, I guess. But she's too late. And that's like I guess recognized might be by First Order, I guess. But she's too late, and the Knights of Ren find her, so she takes them on by herself. Chewbacca and Poe eventually join the fight. Chewie grabs one of the Knights of Ren by the neck, throws him off a platform. There's an artwork for that too. I've seen it. Then he shoots him out of the air. So playing what's that disc golf thing? You know?
Yeah, frisbee golf.
Yeah, well, but you're you have a gun and you're shooting the frisbees. I forget the name of that. Rey isn't some god mode Jedi in Duel of Fates. The leader of the Knights of Ren land a hit on her with the Darksaber. She's disarmed. Raises his weapon to finish her off, and she has a vision. And so the Knights of Ren stand over her, raises the Darksaber to kill her. And when he does, Rey gets a good look at his mask. And then there's a force back that happens. And then there's dark figures in the rain, voices screaming, lightning flashing, revealing him. Back to, I guess, I don't know, Bonadin docking a Rey's sons. I don't know what that is. The vision stirs a deep, vengeful anger in Rey, and she can't yet explain, but knows to be true that Hataska brings his saber down. She extends her good hand. Purple force lightning flows from her fingertips, and Hataska Ren's skull flashes within his helmet, and it destroys him. The body falls smoking. So Rey just powered up with force lightning.
So I guess they stole that for this version then.
I guess so, yeah. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's what they decided. Oh, she's got lightning. Maybe she can be a Palpatine. We can blame Colin Trevorrow for that.
It's possible. I mean, I could have fueled the fire.
Yeah, maybe.
I wouldn't be surprised.
She knows she has to make Poe and Chewbacca leave because they aren't force sensitive and therefore can't go to Mortis. So she uses the Jedi mind trick to make them go. Rey kisses Poe goodbye. Rey boards the Knife 9, goes to Mortis, while the rest of them go to Coruscant. Rose is actually alive, but she's being tortured by Hux.
A lot of celebration in that scene, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. Rey and Kylo arrive on... Yeah, oh man, there would have been cheers. Rey and Kylo arrive on Mortis, but on opposite sides of the planet. And because if you remember Mortis from the Clone Wars, there's a light side and a dark side of the planet.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
What I'm curious is how they would use it when the 3 family members that were originally there have all died.
See, I thought that Mortis just kind of disappeared when the Anchorites died, right? Yeah, because because that
They couldn't
was
find it again, right?
yeah, like they all woke up and they were back in their ship again, and it's like, oh, like,
exactly. I remember them. It was alluded that they would never be able to actually find the planet. Like the planet doesn't exist at the same time as that it does.
yeah, yeah. I love this. Okay, there is confirmation that even in Trevorrow's episode 9, Finn would have been yelling Ray over and over.
That's pretty funny. I've got a few
That's so
pictures
good.
here. I've been looking through images of concept art, and there's definitely a handful of images of Finn all like screaming. So
Yeah.
I can only assume that he's screaming out Ray.
It's probably just making fun of it, the whole idea.
Oh man.
On Mortis, Rey, Kylo fight. She finds a vision of the Force that shows her that her parents weren't just filthy junk traders. They didn't leave her on Jakku for drinking money. They were protecting her from Kylo Ren, and Kylo killed Rey's parents on Snoke's orders. See, I don't really like that, because they're supposed to be somewhat similar in age, at least within the 10-year bracket. And when she was a kid, Ben Solo was still a Jedi. At least he was still like growing up in the Solo household with Leia as like a politician still and everything.
Okay.
So,
but how old would Ben have actually been? Would he not have been like under 10?
Well, those flashbacks with Rey on Jakku when their parents, when the ship takes off and leaves, right? Like I'm assuming like that's where this in Rise of Skywalker, that's where they had this like Sith assassin person like kill her parents instead. So she was like 7 or something like that. So he must have been no more than 15, 16, 17 years old maybe.
Okay, it's even older than I would have thought, but yeah, still not unreasonable.
It's still not unreasonable, no. But I mean, like, I guess I'm like, I don't know. I don't really know if like, I like the fact that like maybe Ben Solo actually killed her parents, but perhaps it wasn't that long ago. Maybe it was like more recently, and they were just filthy junk traders that left her for money and you know, based on Snoke's orders, like he had Ben track them down and kill them so they wouldn't get in the way later, I guess, when they come for Rey or something. Like, I don't know, maybe there could have been something they could have done.
Okay, because I always thought that they were killed when Palpatine was still around, essentially. Because Palpatine's the one that wanted them killed in the first place.
That's his clone. That's his like new body that ordered the assassin or whatever to kill them, because Rey's dad is a failed clone. He's
not force sensitive, yeah.
It's a failed clone of Palpatine, right? And he's not sensitive.
Oh, so they made him an actual clone. They didn't make him like a proper offspring.
Yeah, like he's supposed to be he's supposed to be a clone, I'm pretty sure, because
that's news to me. I haven't heard that part yet.
Yeah, because Palpatine didn't have any like lover person, like
I figured you'd have like courtesans.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure Rey's dad is like a clone. In fact, if I look up Rey's father, it says their father Rey was a bioengineered strand cast, which is a modified clone of the human Sith Lord Darth Sidious. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, that's new canon then.
Yeah. So it's that's on the Wikipedia. So yeah, Rey's. Well, I mean, like, because Palpatine had all these clones that he was transferring his soul into or whatever. It kind of explains that this one, I guess, just didn't have the connection to the Force, so they, you know, he was just kind of a useless thing. But it says on his page, and this is somewhere in the canon that they wrote this in a in a resource book. Sidious kept him alive on purpose of continuing the Palpatine bloodline. So because he didn't have a deformed body, he just didn't have a connection to the Force. He thought that if he kept him alive and just kind of like cut him loose and just kept tabs, that he would have offspring and maybe they would have the connection that to Palpatine
sensitivity.
that he's looking for. Yeah. and then determined to claim his granddaughter after they had settled on Jakku. Sidious orders one of his followers, Achi, to bring her to Exegol. Rey's father and mother choose to leave her on Jakku, selling her to Unkar Plutt in order to hide her from Sidious. Their plan succeeds, although Achi captured and killed them after they refused to reveal their daughter's location.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the full story that we never really got in the movie, but that's like the canon story.
Okay. I mean, that puts a little more context to it, because we're left wondering, like, what's the jump between, like, Palpatine and Rey, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We know that, like, she has parents in the middle ground, but we don't really know how Palpatine actually had offspring in the first place.
Yeah. Here's another thing from Rey's lightsaber is able to be separated into 2 lightsabers, I guess. And then also, like, the finale of the film is she extracts so something happens to her in which she kind of like gets super powerful or whatever. Something about how extracting the living force from Rey, as that's what he starts to do. And then she rises, energy flowing from her body into Kylo's hand as the life drains from her. She pulls her blindfold off and screams to the sky. I guess somehow a blindfold on her. I skipped a bunch of stuff. Kylo Ren stands healed, returns to normal, puts the iron plates off his skin as they fall away. He looks beyond Rey to the empty well of Mortis, and
this all sounds like stuff that would have to take place on Mortis, is what I was thinking.
Yeah, all of this stuff. The final battle takes place on Mortis. In fact, if you look up Duel of Fate's final battle concept art, you'll see a battle of like one of him and her dueling it out, and that's intended to be Mortis. Leia senses her son is about to end Rey once and for all. She reaches out to the Force to stop him. So it's a mother's love that redeems Kylo Ren, turns him back into Ben Solo. Instead of letting Rey die, he gives her the life force that he stole from her, but it comes at a cost. And she watches the light dim from his eyes, but it is the light. And then Rey says, "Goodbye, Ben." And then he's gone. So I guess he does get redeemed in the very end, but it's just differently.
Yeah, because he becomes like the supreme leader proper, right? And then
he just kind of embraces his role like a lot better. And then of course there's a bunch of other stuff that like minor stuff that I'm not going to bother talking about. But one cool thing was Hux realizes he's lost the Star Wars. He then finds his collector's edition lightsaber and impales himself on it, and that's
what that image was.
Yeah, and it's got a purple blade, so I guess they're insinuating that it's supposed to be Mace Windu's lightsaber. Yeah. So anyway, that's a lot of
Japanese thing to do.
Yeah, and then at the very end on Mortis, Rey is dying apparently, and until Luke, Yoda, and Obi-Wan appear to her. They tell her she has to train others, and a bunch of light swirls around her. They take shape of Jedi Masters who have become one with the Force before her, and then Rey lives after that. So I guess they do something to kind of prevent her from dying. So
it's the Force Ghost instead of Kylo.
Yes, and it's revealed that her last name would have been Solana. Rey Solana, I believe. So yeah, I mean a lot of interesting stuff there, and I don't know. I mean, like, what do you think about all that stuff? Like, do you think you would have rather seen that movie or?
There's bits and pieces that I don't like, but overall, I think it might have been better just because it feels more cohesive than what we got.
It does, yeah.
It feels like a more natural trajectory from the other two movies.
Way more natural, yeah.
Yeah, what we have does feel like a rushed kind of panicked, like, how do we end this?
Yeah. It feels like them trying to also play it safe at the same time.
Yeah, and like cobble it together.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I agree with
it's,
that. I love the Mortis thing. I think that's super cool. And for everyone who's seen the Mortis trilogy, seeing the final balance coming true is very prophetic to actually happen on Mortis. I think that's awesome. I would have loved that.
yep.
Um, like I said, most of the stuff I think would have actually been better.
Hmm.
I basically just don't like that they killed off Snoke weirdly.
Yeah. Or
That's so
you mean
strange.
Darth Plagueis?
Sorry, Plagueis. Yeah, Plagueis. They killed off Plagueis so strangely.
Yeah, I see. I actually I don't like that either. And I think that's probably something that may have been tweaked a little bit
I would hope so.
because it also is also something that I think would have been elaborated on because Sidious claims to have killed Tor Valum, right? So I think it's something that could have been changed a little bit, at least in the script. I think it's very like it's patchwork here. The fact that
Yeah.
they just kind of said, "Oh, Tor Valum," it's insinuated that he's also Darth Plagueis, kind of thing, right? But I actually really like kind of my version of this whole Snoke thing. It's like they should have just made Snoke Darth Plagueis. Like it would have made
Yeah.
so much more sense with
And it's
all
such
the
an
stuff.
easy change.
It's so easy. Yeah, it's such an easy change that they could have made more relevant, even if we
And
kept the
honestly,
entire.
just that one change would have allowed Snoke to die in Last Jedi and then be back again in the next
Yes,
movie.
exactly.
That's it.
And
It's that
with
one
him,
change.
I would have actually bought the fact more likely that okay, maybe he's got clones
He's
or
moving his
sorry,
body into his
yeah,
consciousness.
or instead of clones, because of course we haven't seen Plagueis until this point. We only just apparently he's dead, right? That's all we've heard from Sidious, who's also a liar. So it's very likely that he could have been killed, but he's got this ability very similar to like the Force healing ability that we've seen in the movie, and he can just do it to himself, right?
Exactly.
So like maybe that's instead of like doing like a whole like I'm giving you my life force to heal your injury kind of thing, maybe he's able to do exactly that, manipulate the midichlorians to create life. Like you just but that's the one thing that Sidious gets wrong when he's telling Anakin the story is that he could save others from death but not himself. Well, apparently he can because now he's back. I wouldn't care about that because it's like, okay, I'd rather like go off of like that story, have Plagueis it's like maybe Snoke is a mutilated version of him. Like he still kind of looks like he could be immune if his head was stuck in like a lawn chipper.
He was never canonized as a moon either, so it's like he doesn't necessarily have to be a moon.
He wasn't, yeah, and I think that's something that, and he could have been something else. He doesn't have to be immune, but it would have been interesting to kind of explain the fact that he's got such a deformed look to him. And
that's true.
In this one, it's like they just made Snoke this creature that Palpatine
like made in a tank,
and kind of remotely control. Like he's his own entity, but he made a servant basically to kind of do his bidding, and this servant somehow has the Force, and I have no idea why they went that direction because they kind of caused their own loophole. If Palpatine can't even make a successful clone for himself to sustain his soul inside the body and is able to make a clone with no powers at all, and he cuts loose and lives perfectly fine and makes Rey, I don't see how he's able to like not do that but make Snoke with the ability to use the Force. Like it doesn't make any sense.
I seem to recall there being a canon, maybe it's not canon anymore, but I remember at one point reading that clones cannot be Force sensitive.
Yeah, so that was something...
the original thing, at least, where like you could clone. If you cloned a Jedi, they would not be Force sensitive. Yeah,
that's something that that couldn't be replicated. Is like the midichlorians, even though it's a microbiotic thing, and it's not a given that every offspring is going to have the Force, right? But like I do like to think that there is some sort of naturalistic formation that happens when somebody does have midichlorians in their bloodstream, that happens due to the wills of the Force and not necessarily just like a 100% genetic thing, right? Because obviously, like, and Anakin is the perfect example of that, because he has no father and he was made purely from the Force, and so it's like, well, if that's the case, then midi-chlorians are like the simplistic thing that could just be made from the Force. There's plenty of Force attuned children out there that don't have Force parents, right? So it's like, it's totally believable that clones of a person aren't always going to have potential to have this Force attribute to them, right? Midi-chlorians won't be replicated. Those things just occur naturally, or maybe more likely, I guess, if you have Force parents. I like to think Luke and Leia have the Force because it's the will of the Force that they do, and not necessarily because their dad is Anakin Skywalker, right?
I can see what you're saying there. Like,
because of course, without them, he would never be redeemed.
Also true. Yeah.
So, yeah, but anyways, I mean, it's getting pretty late. I guess we should wrap this up.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, you and I could talk and rant about this for hours and hours, but
yeah, exactly.
Gotta call it ending somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I guess do you have any last things you want to bring up, or?
I would love to have seen Trevorrow's original draft, or like his story, come to life. I know obviously we can't have both, but it has a lot of potential and a lot of interesting story threads that I think could have possibly been better than what we got. I would love to have seen it come to fruition, but that's not what we got. This is the one we got as a film, so we can't just think wishful thinking our whole lives. So,
right, yeah.
What we got, I think, had some really cool stuff, and maybe it wasn't ideal, and it did change a good number of canonized things, especially Return of the Jedi. But I guess it is what it is. We have to just kind of accept that.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think you and I feel very much the same about all this stuff. And including like episode 9.
Yeah.
Would you place it as your least favorite in this trilogy, or?
No, I still dislike The Last Jedi more because it just has too many things that annoy me. This at least had a lot of stuff that I thought was like cool. I really enjoyed, like the being on the Death Star. I thought was super cool. I think the fights, other than the throne room duel, I think the fights are better in this one.
Yeah.
And the story is at least cohesive. The one thing that just annoys me to no end about The Last Jedi is just the entire middle section of the movie is utterly pointless.
Yeah, that's the one thing I think could have been changed 100%.
And honestly, that to me is the linchpin that makes it the least interesting movie for me, because it just feels like it's wasting my time for 40 minutes and it comes to nothing.
Yeah, it's like it's a subplot that just doesn't matter at all.
And it's so inopportune, because the entire time that they're doing the subplot saving the horses, their friends are all about to die.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel right at all. I don't know anyone that would have, if let's say hypothetically like this was the Star Wars galaxy and that was real, people wouldn't do that.
No. Yeah, people wouldn't do. And the whole thing about like finding the master code breaker, it's like all right,
yeah,
it's like you got to fly halfway across the galaxy for a guy that somebody told you to find. He happens to actually be there. I don't know. It's just like,
that's my issue though. Is like, and they go with some other random guy who they weren't supposed to go to get in the first place. Like, I don't. There's too many plot holes in that whole situation, and I have a hard time buying it. So,
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, this movie at least doesn't have that problem, so I like this movie better than the last one.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I could see that. When this movie first came out, I just could not I could not wrap my head around it. I was like, this
Yeah,
is.
I remember you were really bitter.
I was so bitter about it, but now that I've had time to like digest the whole thing, I can safely say it's not the least favorite of this trilogy of mine. This entire
Okay.
trilogy is the bottom of the barrel for me, but at least it's not at the bottom. Like it's not rock bottom. Yeah, I probably have to like put either Last Jedi or even Force Awakens at the
I
bottom.
wonder if you might say Force Awakens. I know
Yeah.
you still dislike that movie quite a lot.
I still dislike that movie a lot. Like it's and is there's a lot of good stuff that comes out of it thanks to Harrison Ford. Everything else does not work at all for me. Like it's just
Mhm.
there's a lot of like classic homage that's paid, which is respectable, but it's almost like it's way too much. And it's also
Okay.
the single soul movie that not only wasted a third of the trilogy's time when it came to like connecting it to the original films, but it's the film responsible for setting up this entire trajectory from the get-go.
Right.
It
Yeah.
it stands as a symbol to me as the direction that Disney decided to go away from George's vision over here. Like that's The Force Awakens to me. That movie is like the thing that exists because this stuff didn't happen. And of course, like George's outline would have been the preferable. I don't care if a ton of people would have hated it. At least it's like George Lucas's Star Wars, right?
It certainly would have been more cohesive as a 9-part series. I
As a
have no
proper
question
episode
about
7,
that.
as a proper episode 7, I
Yeah.
had my skeptical thoughts as soon as they started marketing the whole thing as The Force Awakens. I feel like that shouldn't be a thing. Like when we first went and saw The Force Awakens, I should have been more worried before walking in, and I walked out feeling kind of empty. But I walked in not even knowing if episode 7 was going to be in the opening crawl. Like nowhere in their entire marketing did they ever once mention it as episode 7. They just kept marketing it as Star Wars The Force Awakens or
That's
the
true.
next Star Wars reboot. They called it a reboot. And then when I went and saw it, I was like, this is totally a reboot. Like it's like it's the exact same movie. Like
Yeah, it was like this weird middle ground. I mean, it also
yeah.
came out at a time that every franchise was rebooting.
There's like I mean we had the new Spider-Man movies coming out and
Terminator.
Terminator, and so a lot of people were calling it,
I mean, Star Trek had just been rebooted a few years before, even though it was like
by
it was like a half reboot.
Yeah, in an alternate timeline. So yeah, I can see why people are calling it a reboot. What I didn't understand was like they've got a legacy of Star Wars films behind them, and this is what they're building on, right? Like this is like they paid $4 billion for a franchise that they build the foundation on to make these new films, and they don't even utilize that foundation to market them with. Like it's this is
it's Disney,
7.
man. It could be that they didn't pay for the history; they paid for the label.
I guess so. It just baffles me though. It just baffles me, right? Like like this is the Star Wars movie that they should be proudly saying is the sequel to the film that so many people loved back in like 1980s, right? Like those
I get what you're saying,
films.
And us as fans, I think that's what we wanted it to be. But truth be told, I really don't think anyone except George Lucas would have created these films with that in mind.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly it. I think it was 100% just a Disney call that they don't market it with those classic Roman numeral numbers on purpose because that came after the very, very first Star Wars movie came out. Like they started doing the whole, episode 5 was known as episode 5 when it launched, I believe, right? Like Empire Strikes Back.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the first one that came out with an episode label. At least
and then they went back and put a number in front of
it was
New Hope.
Yeah, exactly. It was but they still never marketed them as episode 4, 5, 6. They like George, I think, very specifically did that on purpose just so people wouldn't be confused. But
It'd be
when
very
you
confusing.
when you sat down and watched the film, it's like, oh, what the heck? Am I missing something? It's like, yeah, you are. You got to wait 20 years. Like,
yeah,
right?
it's true.
But then the prequels, I think, set a new guideline for how these movies actually were marketed because on all the re-releases, of the films, they had those, Roman numeral depicted titles on the special edition DVD covers, all that stuff, right? So, up until episode 3, that was the way it was going. And I feel like Disney should have just built on that foundation and been like, hey, yeah, this is episode 7. Like, we're acknowledging the fact that there's 6 other movies.
Because they just eradicated it altogether and just got rid of them. There is no Roman numerals.
Just obliterated it. The only
I know JJ said they were paying homage to Empire Strikes Back when it first came out.
Yeah,
but I mean,
they should have went back to
You can't help but be a little skeptical that they were just trying to, push farther away from the prequels.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. But it's, and it saddens me to know we never got like George's story. But I hope at some point they do maybe adapt that story into a comic book. I mean, they did adapt the original Star Wars draft into a comic book, so maybe it's just a little too soon. But I think maybe there's hope that one day we'll get it. In the meantime, I guess they've been killing it with Mandalorian, and the animated shows have all been, nothing to complain about.
Yeah, that's true.
Big Clone Wars fans. We're big Clone Wars fans. I mean, we trust Dave Filoni. So I'm hoping that this trilogy teaches them a lesson going forward with the next couple things that they do.
Well, you definitely know it made some sort of impact because they're not pumping out movies every year anymore.
That's true. Yeah.
So they're definitely rethinking it.
Yeah.
And with The Mandalorian coming out and being so successful, I think they will start to see a little more of the direction that they need to go.
Yeah.
So, here's hoping that Filoni gets put into the new position that'll be overreaching, and he'll be on top of the tower looking out at all the different storylines and make sure everything's going to be cohesive and in George's view what would have been created at Star Wars.
Oh, exactly. It's like, that song, like Jesus Take the Wheel, just like make a version that's called Filoni Take the Wheel.
Yeah, man. Honestly, that's what Star Wars needs these days. And I think the contrast of The Mandalorian versus this trilogy that came out and the fans' reaction should be enough evidence in itself that, that's the guy. That guy knows what he's doing. They should trust him and not just let random people come in and just make stuff.
Yeah. Yes. Keep it in the family. Like the Star Wars family, that is. Not necessarily like the...
You could bring in directors, but make sure that the story is written by somebody who knows what they're doing and understands Star Wars.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly how they do it with Mandalorian, right? Like they have directors, but who writes it? It's Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni.
That's exactly it. That's the way, honestly, Star Wars should be. That's how it was done in the original trilogy. That's how they should just keep going with it. Yeah, for sure. Story by, Dave Filoni. Like even the writers on Empire Strikes Back, they don't credit George Lucas because he stood over the shoulders of the writer, told him what to do. That's why it says story by George Lucas, and then everyone else is involved. But it's like, so he's not the director, he's not the writer, he's not the, he's a producer, I guess, but he's the guy who makes the story and tells everybody else what to do because it's his thing. Yeah. So it's like, see, that's what I want from Dave Filoni. I want him to be the guy that tells everybody else what to do. He doesn't necessarily need to be the director. He doesn't even need to be the writer, but he can be the guy that stands over the shoulders of the writer, tells that writer word for word what to put on the page. And even though they get the credit, at least the story's still done by Dave, right? Yeah, it's true. Honestly, that's what they need. And I think they're finally getting the vision that's a system that works through Mandalorian. So... yeah, for sure. Here's hoping that that's the way they go from here on out. So,
let's hope. Well,
Star Wars is far from being destroyed as a franchise. So
it is. There's a lot more that can, keep it going, I guess.
Yeah, there's still lots of stories to be told.
Yeah.
It will rise from the ashes.
Exactly. Like the First Order.
No, not like the First Order.
Let's hope not.
Better than that.
Let's hope not. All right, man. Well, thanks for coming back on the show. Our final commentary track. I guess we'll see you tomorrow or I guess whenever the next episode drops for Mandalorian season 2 episode 2.
Yeah, sounds good, man. I'll be there. Thanks again for having me on the program here. Go through all the films.
Anytime, man.
It's been a wild ride.
It has.
A lot of highs, a lot of lows.
A lot of Last Jedis. So yeah.
It was fun. It was a good time.
It was a good time. We'll catch you on the Mandalorian nights there.
Sounds good. Bye.
My friend. Cool. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to our final commentary track of the series. I guess going through from beginning to end chronologically, which has been interesting. So thanks again for sticking with us if you have. And once again, these are all our opinions, and it's not like we're forcing you to dislike any of the movies that we don't like. But hopefully, it's a bit of a different perspective if you hadn't heard one before, and if you had, then hopefully it wasn't annoying to listen to. Just another group of people complaining about these films. I know how it is, but it's just the way we feel. We're all Star Wars fans, and we all feel very strongly about what we like and what we don't like. So that being said, most people I know tend to like The Mandalorian. So I mean, we got Mandalorian season 2 out already. And we've been doing weekly Mondays, Mando Mondays, I guess, to coincide with the StarWars.com/Star Wars YouTube channel initiative. So you can look forward to many after shows, one for each, coming out on a weekly basis for Mandalorian Season 2. And if you're on top of all the merchandise coming out, there's a great 1-to-1 scale Hasbro Black Series replica Mandalorian helmet that's out on the shelf pretty soon here, as well as the Child from Sideshow Collectibles, life-size replica. I got mine in the mail, boys. All right, we'll catch you all next time. 5 stars if you got a hand, and may the Force be with you.